fractions and percents, a lot of times people overlook the fact that they represent the same idea. Okay, and it's almost like a different language. So if I had the English word hi or hello right there, and then I came over and I looked at the Spanish word of hola, they both have the same meaning. It's how you would greet somebody, like hi, how you doing? But they're not spelled the same way. Why? Because there's different languages. Well, percents and fractions are pretty much the same idea, the same as percents and decimals. They're just different languages. If you translate them, they mean the same thing. So let's go and convert 40% into fractions. How do we do that? And we'll do these also right here. The basic steps are this. You put the percent number on top of a fraction, and the bottom's always 100. Then you just simplify it. So what's my percent number? My percent number is 40%. So that's kind of easy to write here for the top of my fraction. That's 40%. What do I put on the bottom? Always 100. And then you just ask yourself, can I simplify that? Yes, you can. So it's the same as 2/5. So 40% in a simplified fraction is the same as 2/5. 71%. What's my percent? 71. So I put that on top. What do I put on bottom? 100. Can I simplify that? No. So there's my fraction for 71%. It means the same thing, just a different way of writing it. And here, 120%, let's put 120 on top. What do we put on bottom? Always 100. And this is where we have to make sure that we simplify it. We're not going to just leave it as an improper fraction. We're going to make it into a mixed number. So 100 goes into 120 one time. We've got 20 left over, and our denominator is 100. We can still simplify this fraction, dividing top and bottom both by 20, and we get 1 and 1/5. 1 and 1/5 symbolizes the same thing as 120%. So that's how we change percents into fractions. When we're talking about taking a fraction to percent, that one's not quite as easy, but it's not impossible. You get used to it, and I think you would still agree that it's not really difficult. But basically, here's the basic steps. We're going to make sure it's a fraction. So 5/10 is a fraction, 3/25 is a fraction. This is a mixed number. That's not a fraction, it's a mixed number, so we'd have to make this into an improper fraction. So that's what I'm talking about by making sure it's a fraction. If it's already a fraction, good. If not, make it into an improper fraction. Next up, divide the top number by the bottom number. So 5 is going to be divided by 10. 10 goes into 5 0 times, so let's go ahead and get our decimal in place there and add the zeros. 10 goes into 50 5 times, nothing's left over, so I know that 5/10 decimal is 0.5. Well, that's not a percent. We want to go from a fraction to a percent. So here we are as a fraction. We can divide top number by bottom number, the numerator divided by the denominator, and we'll make a decimal. And then our previous lesson showed you how we can actually change a decimal into a percent. And we do that by just moving it 2 times to the right. So we get 50% as our percentage of this fraction. So again, let's just clarify. If we've got a fraction, go ahead and divide top by the bottom number. We get a decimal, and then we know how to just move that 2 spots to the right, and we add our percent sign. So let's go through and do 3 divided by 25. It's a fraction already, so we don't have to worry about changing it into 1. 25 does not go into 3. So we'll add our decimal places there. 25 goes into 30 one time. Okay. And now we've got 5 left over. Let's add another 0 place. Pull that down. 25 goes into 50 2 times. Nothing's left over. So our decimal version is 0.12. I move my decimal over 2 spots to make it into a percentage, and we're at 12%. And now this last one is what we do when we don't have the fraction. make it into a fraction. 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So that becomes 5/4. Now we can take 4 and divide it by 5. I'm sorry, I've got that flipped around. Again, we take the top number and divide it by the bottom number. So 4 is on the outside, 5 is on the inside. 4 goes into 5 one time. Don't panic, that's fine. We can have a percent that's more than 100. And we've got 1 left over. So since we've got 1 left over, we need to add a decimal. Put that right up top, add in some zeros, and let's see what happens here. If we pull our 0 down, let's get a little bit more space here. 4 goes into 10 2 times. So 4 times 2 is 8, and we've got 2 left over. Let's go ahead and add another 0 down there. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and we've got nothing left over. So I know that my decimal is 1.25. That's my decimal. I want a fraction. Let's move this over 2 times, and we get 125%. Don't forget your percentage sign. So again, just make sure that you've got a fraction. If it's not a fraction, turn it into an improper fraction. We know how to do that. And then take the top number and divide it by the bottom number. And you get your decimal, and we know how to change a decimal to a percent.